Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a consistent liberal voice on the Supreme Court for 27 years. So if her replacement is a conservative, as expected that it will be, that could reshape the court for a generation to come. Her death leaves the court with 3 liberal-leaning members and 5 others who lean conservative. Chip Reid is at the Supreme Court. He was once, little-known fact, a student of Justice Ginsburg's at Columbia Law School. What? I just heard that just now, Chip Reid. So before we go, the question I have for you is what are the issues that are at stake at the high court? But first, I want to know about you. Number one, I had no idea you went to law school, that you were a practicing lawyer. What was she like in class? And why are you reporting and not being a lawyer? We're very glad you're here. Very glad you're here. But
this is a heck of a lot more fun than being a lawyer. So I did 6 years of practicing law. That was plenty. But in class, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was amazing. It was a small seminar class, spring of 1980. That's how long ago it was, right before she went to the U.S. Court of Appeals. She was so soft-spoken, but everybody was hanging on every word, making sure they didn't miss anything. And to answer your other question, what's at stake here? Well, a huge array of enormously important issues, starting with health care. Soon after election day, the court is expected to decide whether or not the Affordable Care Act individual mandate is constitutional. If overturned, it could leave millions without health insurance. Then there's reproductive rights. Since Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, abortion rights opponents have been challenging that decision. In June, in a 5-4 ruling, the court struck down a Louisiana law that could have left the state with 1 abortion clinic. Other cases that have been decided by 5-4 margins have had profound consequences for climate change and immigration. For example, in 2007, the court decided the EPA has the authority to regulate greenhouse gases. And in June, the court stopped the Trump administration from dismantling the program that protects so-called dreamers from being deported. And then, of course, there is the presidential election. If the results of that election are challenged, as so many people expect just might happen, the Supreme Court might have the final say, just like they did back in 2000. And Tony, if you hear a lot of noise, there's some very noisy anti-Trump protesters over here who are very angry about the possibility that they would confirm somebody before Election Day. Tony?
Yeah, no slow days in Washington, D.C., especially not between now and Election Day. Chip, thank you very much. Joining us now are University of Baltimore School of Law professor Kim Wehle and George Washington University Law professor Jonathan Turley. Good morning to you both. For more depth here on the loss of Justice Ginsburg and what it means now for the court. Jonathan, I want to go to you first. This means there are going to be 8 justices for these upcoming cases in the fall session. What could that mean for the cases themselves? How will it impact the votes?
Well, there's no true draws on the Supreme Court. If there's a tie 4-4, the case below prevails. So whoever prevailed with that case prevails again with a tie. The court usually does not rehear many cases. With Kennedy, they reheard 4. Thomas, I think they reheard 2 or 3. Same thing with Gorsuch. Kavanaugh, they reheard 1. So most of the time, they don't rehear cases. It's these 5-4 decisions, or if they have a 4-4 split, they'll consider that. It's not a lot of cases, but they have done it before. What's most common is they'll try to eke out a narrower decision to avoid these 4-4 splits.
All right. Kim, Justice Ginsburg was known as a reliably liberal-leaning vote on the court. Without her vote, how will that change the dynamic between liberal and conservative, and how will particular cases potentially be decided differently in her absence?
Well, we've seen the Chief Justice Roberts go to the center, really, since Justice Kennedy retired from the court. So when we have 4 justices that are reliably conservative on one side, 4 justices reliably progressive on the other, and the Chief Justice, who's a conservative, sort of sometimes nodding towards the liberal side, you take Justice Ginsburg out of that lineup, and then we have a solidly 6-person conservative court. And so we will, I think, presumably for many, many years, given that it looks like there'll be a younger person probably appointed if it goes through with Donald Trump, for generations we will see a solidly conservative court on issues of social justice. And essentially, when there's a question on how to read the ambiguity in the Constitution, someone like Justice Ginsburg would defer to the individual rights, concerns of individual citizens. A more conservative court might look more towards the rights of entities like corporations, for example. A lot of that, the breakdown kind of comes down to that on legal issues.
So I've got one final question I'm going to put to both of you. Jonathan, you go first, and then Kim, you'll have the final word. And that is about the issue before every American right now, the election. If that election is challenged, as we hear it might be, both Republicans and Democrats are hiring lawyers for that eventuality. How could Ginsburg's absence in this 4-4 lock at the court affect the election outcome, Jonathan?
It could be significant. Notably, Justice Ginsburg herself said that a president has every right to appoint someone in his final year. And Justice Sotomayor said that she hoped they would hurry to get back to a nine-justice court. And this could be a serious problem. If we have a 4-4 split, there's likely to be challenges here. And that is an argument that the Trump administration is likely to use, that they need a full panoply of justices going into what may be the most important decisions in an election in the history of the court.
Kim, could this nominee from President Trump, in effect, deliver Republicans the election in a challenged vote in 2020?
Well, it's really hard to imagine they're going to be able to confirm someone in 45 days. It takes, on average, about 69 days. But yes, I mean, Justice Ginsburg was a strong advocate for voting rights. The conservatives on the court are not. But I would say, frankly, if we can see more things stay in the legislatures and not go to the Supreme Court, maybe even because there's a 4-4 split, that would be good for the American people. Because when the court decides something as a matter of the Constitution, it's essentially like amending the Constitution. And these are 5 people on a nine-justice court that are not elected, and I think that's really important for Americans to remember. It's better to keep things in we the people in the ballot box than send things to the United States Supreme Court.
All right, Kim Wehle, Jonathan Turley, we'll have to have you both back on when we talk about the next topic on everyone's mind, which is potentially expanding the court, which could be very interesting. Thank you both for now.